Bonjour, je suis Ismail Cherkaoui, cofondateur de Hub Advisor, société de stratégie, de veille et d'acculturation digitale. Notre métier est d'aider les dirigeants d'entreprise à transformer leur organisation pour la rendre plus agile, customer-centric et data-driven. Pour apporter des réponses concrètes à notre communauté de dirigeants, nous interviewons tous les mois des pionniers du digital qui nous partagent sans langue de bois leurs réussites, leurs échecs et aussi les leçons qu'ils ont pu tirer. Dans nos interviews, on parle de choix technologiques, d'organisation, de transformation de la culture. Si vous êtes intéressé par des retours d'expérience concrets et pragmatiques, n'hésitez pas à suivre nos contenus.
We wanted, and I told you from the beginning that marketing is really changing and disrupted by AI, and that's why we wanted to connect with you, David, today, just to have a view on how it's happening, what are the tools on the market, and what marketing leaders as well as digital leaders should do in order to be on the right wave. So David, first and foremost, I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we can go to the presentation. Last thing, if you have any question during the presentation of David, please let us know in the chat. We will take every question. Do not hesitate to be as interactive, as participative as possible.
Well, terrific. I'm actually going to start the slides now, and then I will have an introductory slide. So here
Perfect.
we go. Can you see my slides?
Yes,
Okay,
here we go.
perfect.
We can
So
see
we named this before I continued to sort of iterate on the presentation. Do I have a strategic blueprint? Possibly. We'll see how far we get in blueprinting, but I'm going to be sharing a good amount of sort of context for you around where we are with artificial intelligence. This is a very fast moving environment. And I've been just, Ismail, looking at some of the topics that you've already covered with other presenters over the past months. And there's a lot of changes happening in this space so rapidly, new ways of addressing challenges, problems, opportunities in our businesses these days that we continue to find adjustments. So what we're going to start with is looking at sort of the overall landscape very, very briefly. We'll then talk a little bit about what's actually possible with artificial intelligence. And I'll talk specifically about a few areas that I think it can automatically be applied in the marketing space. We're then going to actually do some show and tell. We're going to jump inside ChatGPT and play around with a few different experimental activities, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So by way of introduction, this is me. My name is David Baer. I've been a marketer since the 1990s, first in the performing arts world, then in the wine world. I'll actually be using a wine example today. I ran a Facebook ads agency back before it was even called Meta. And these days I'm in the business of working with marketing agencies and service providers, helping them infuse a lot more strategy into the work that they do rather than the sort of tactical fulfillment stuff that most agencies are really built around. So I want to give you a very, very brief, I'm not going to get into the details of this slide, but overview of generative AI. Generative AI is really one of the areas within artificial intelligence that we're seeing the most activity with. So it's the creation of material or the working through content based on the artificial intelligence platform. So things like ChatGPT or Midjourney, where you can create images, for example, are good examples of generative AI. Artificial intelligence, the term was coined back in the 1950s. By the 1960s, we started seeing major computer work around how to get computers thinking like humans. And then you see there's a big break here before 2006 when we started to see a lot of the groundwork for what we're seeing today. So we're going to dig into a bit more of that as we go forward. But I wanted to give you even further context for this, because when I shared this image with most marketers, most business owners, they're shocked to hear what this image actually communicates. So I'm curious, is anybody here familiar with this image? This is an image generated by a company called Chief Martech. Every single year for the past, I think, 11 or 12 years now, they have created this map. This is a map of all of the various MarTech tools, platforms, SaaS, platforms that are out there to help support our marketing. I'm seeing a complete silence in the chat, which is making me think that nobody has seen this. But you'd be surprised, perhaps, maybe not, to discover on this map alone, which was from May of this year, 2023, there were 11,038 different tools that were documented by this particular survey. Now, if you go back to 2011, they only had 150 that they had identified to support marketing. So you can see the rapid expansion, the growth, over 7,200% growth in 12 years in terms of the tools that are available to help support us in marketing. And these are things like, CRMs or automation tools, attribution tools, ad creation and ad management and ad tracking tools, just some of the examples of what exists. But then we get all of the artificial intelligence stuff layered on top of this. And this is a collection of several different sites that sort of catalog different AI tools out there. The one that I like the most is something called there's an AI for that.com. And this is a screenshot I took today. Now you can't see this, this is very small, but it says right here that they've cataloged 9,028 AI tools. Now you layer that on top of the 11,000 we just looked at, there's a lot of choices for tools to help us work through these various artificial intelligence and marketing challenges that we have. How do you figure out what to use, let alone what's any good, et cetera, right? This is a big challenge, I think, in the space. As I'm talking to business owners every day, they're saying, oh, I just got a hold of such and such, something I've never heard of, and then they ask me my opinion of it. I think we need to really look at approaching this from a very different angle. And so that's really where I want to spend a little bit of time today. The question that I like to ask is, what business challenges are you dealing with currently? And then look at AI and say, and how can AI help this? As opposed to looking at the tool and saying, this looks like a really cool tool. How can I use this in my business? You're going to find that you're going to fail over and over again if you start with the tool. Start with the problem is really the first piece of advice that I'd like to offer you today. The other thing is, a lot of the tools that we're currently using are starting to build or layer AI on top of the things that we're already doing. And so you may find that if you have a SaaS platform that is key to your business, you're going to see either that they've already or they're about to release artificial intelligence into it. Let me give you one very, very simple example. This is the email marketing tool MailChimp, which is now owned by Intuit. And I was in my client's account the other day, and I was surprised to discover that they've now added artificial intelligence in here. And so all I did was I highlighted this text to change it, and this little thing popped up that said, type in a prompt and it will actually do the writing for me. And over here, I can decide what tone I want it to be. You're going to see a lot of this type of thing going forward in terms of artificial intelligence being added to a lot of the tools that we see out there. But as on the infomercials here in the US, they like to say, but wait, there's more. Because all of the major companies that we're familiar with in Silicon Valley are very much on top of this artificial intelligence adoption in their core business models at this point. We're about to see, so you may or may not have played around with Google's various tools. Bard is probably their most well-known, but they're going to be releasing something called Gemini, which they say completely overshadows and is much better than, of course, everybody's going to claim they're much better than ChatGPT, right? Meta has a bunch of different things that they've released. They have hinted that they are also on the verge of releasing something new. We don't know what it's called. I'm guessing it's called Llama 3 because they've been releasing 1 and 2 so far. Here's Elon Musk with his X.AI. He's already announced that it's going to exist. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like. And Apple, actually just today, started to publicly talk about something that they have been quietly talking about for a while called Ajax, which is going to be layered on top of Siri and some of their other existing tools. So you're going to see a lot more of this stuff coming into the tools that we're already familiar with from a lot of the companies that we're already familiar with and working with as well. And what this is going to help us do, well, you're about to see. So here's how I like to think about artificial intelligence. I don't think artificial intelligence is necessarily going to be taking what we do and replacing us quite as much as it's going to be helping us work at a higher, better level and accomplish a lot more. And the best way for me to sort of explain this to somebody who's thinking about using it or deploying it in their business for the first time is to think about artificial intelligence as a very, very, very powerful intern. And you need to communicate it with it like you would an intern, somebody who's not necessarily familiar with the inner workings or the nuances or, you know, the nomenclature, the language within your business. But if you give it some context and explain, here's what I'm trying to accomplish, and I'd like your help with this, and here's how I'd like you to organize the results that I'm asking you to create for me, it can help you move a lot faster in whatever direction you're moving. And this is, you know, how I think about when I've had interns working for me and I've given them a task. If I wasn't very clear to them about what I wanted them to do, we would usually have to go back and start again. And that's often what I see people doing with the use of artificial intelligence, which, by the way, is great because it's a terrific way to train yourself in how to communicate with these tools. We'll going through some examples of that in just a moment. But I want to talk a little bit about some areas where I think you can immediately start deploying artificial intelligence tools in the marketing space. And so you can see there's a list of just 20 areas, and there's a lot more in marketing that we do. But there are tools that exist out there. There's also simply going into a tool like ChatGPT or many of the other interactive chat environments, the large language models that exist out there. And by the way, ChatGPT is not the only player in the space. I'm regularly using one of their top competitors from a company called Anthropic, which is called Claude. I'm regularly using that for data analytics, for example. It's a great tool for that. But I'm looking at all of these different areas where you can immediately say, oh, I'd like to figure out how to address a problem in terms of creating dynamic content, creating a bunch of testing around messaging, and how can we come up with all that various messaging, deploy it, analyze it, figure out the winner faster so that we can continue moving forward. And that's really where I think we have the greatest opportunity right now in marketing, is reallocating our time, reallocating our resources so that we can be more efficient and more productive and do a lot more testing a lot faster so that we can get to the answers of what's working and what is a wasted resource of time and or money. So is that a good, clear setup so far, Ismail?
Yeah, I mean,
all right. Beautiful.
very clear.
Yeah, I'm gonna now jump into a little bit of examples inside of ChatGPT, and I was trying to figure out as we were talking in advance of today's presentation about a little range of things I could show you that might be getting things that would help get you thinking about effective ways to deploy artificial intelligence. I do a lot of copywriting work. And so one of the very first things that we tend to do is figure out who is it that we're speaking to and what are the things that matter to them most. And so this is something when I was back in the days of running an agency, I would charge a lot of money to a client to help them work through building out a ideal client or customer persona or avatar. Thousands of dollars to kind of work through this. These days, I can do it in a click of a button, and 6-10 seconds later, I have my first iteration that we can then work through. So I'm going to show you an example of how we do that, and we're going to jump over to ChatGPT. So I'm in the plus version, the paid version, which costs here in the U.S. a whopping $20 a month. Well worth it. And I'm not going to give you a full overview of this platform, but I'm going to actually jump down to the advanced data analytics piece, because that's going to allow me in a few minutes to upload a CSV file to do a little bit of analysis in. And so what I'm going to do just to start is we're going to drop in a rather large prompt, and I'll go through the prompt in a little bit of detail, but I don't want to spend too much time on prompting right now. I want to show you the results of what we can do, and we can then backtrack during the Q&A here.
Maybe I interrupt you 1 second. Obviously, if for the audience, if later you would like to go through the prompts and get to understand better, we will get in touch with you, and we can set up a one-to-one call with David, and he will take the time to explain you everything.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do here is I've given it an instruction that I basically would like it to help me identify this persona and look at various aspects of this individual. So I'm asking it to tell me about the person's dreams and their past failures, their fears, suspicions, some of the enemies that they may have that we can use in our language. And then I just added this one this morning, personal values and passion. And there's a reason I added that one, and I'll talk about that in a moment. I was trying to think about what is a good example that we can use. So I'm going to ask you guys to just quickly vote in the chat. We can do an example of a woman who's in her 60s, who is widowed, who is looking for help with financial or an insurance. So put a number 1 in the chat for that. And a number 2, if we're going to do a persona around a young woman who is interested in pampering herself. And maybe we'll look, instead of in financial and insurance, we'll look at some luxury items or something like that as the business we're building. Okay, so I see a 2, a 2, a 1, a 2. Okay, so I'm seeing more 2s than 1s. So those of you who have entered the process late with 1s, I'm sorry. We're going to go with the young woman in her 20s. I'm going to go ahead and just drop that in here. So young woman in her 20s, in her first serious job, and a small amount of disposable income, who wants to splurge on herself once in a while, right? This is basically what I'm trying to figure out is, all right, if I'm a luxury brand, or I'm a, I think the brand that I chose to do an example of today was a, personal hygiene or personal care brand. We want to know who we're talking to and how we want to speak to them.
So sorry for that. So I'm just going to recap. Basically, it takes a lot of time to organize a customer persona. So David has put on ChatGPT all the items that he wanted to cover, the expectation from the client. Yeah, David.
Okay. Any better?
Okay. Here we go.
All right. So now let's go back to, for some reason, it would not let me click the button at all to unmute.
Yeah, now Luca provided the answer. He said, let ChatGPT talk.
I think that was a great answer. So I started to answer your question about, I just made this up.
Okay.
I knew what I wanted, right? I knew where I wanted to go to.
Okay.
And so I said, all right, here's the type of output I would like you to create. And then it's gone ahead and done it. But it's changed this based on the pattern that I created before. One of the things about artificial intelligence is it's very good at recognizing patterns and then imitating something. You'll see an example of this in another couple of minutes. So here we're looking at this young woman who has a new job. She has a little bit of disposable income. She wants to splurge or pamper herself. And what are some of the dreams that she has? Financial independence. What are some of the past failures? Impulse spending.
Wow.
What are some of the fears that she may have? Judgment of others in society. What is she suspicious of? Marketing hype. And I'm just highlighting a few of these. One of the things that I thought might be really useful was to include personal values and passions, because in the space that I was thinking about doing something here as an example, a lot of the motivators for somebody buying something like makeup or skincare products might be intrinsic. It might be something that is not I'm trying to solve a problem, but rather I want to feel better about myself. And so I wanted to understand these aspects of the individual so that maybe in our marketing messaging we could speak to that. Is that making sense? Or are we clear?
I think which is really interesting is AI can help you to, or is able to understand human feelings.
Yeah.
And help you on that. And obviously we don't think about asking questions about human feeling to an AI, and this is what you are, showing us basically.
Well, I think so much of marketing involves psychology, human psychology.
Okay.
And in order for us to effectively communicate and be persuasive, we need to understand what are those elements which are going to persuade someone. And so understanding human feelings absolutely is key to our effective messaging. So I'm going to just jump back over here, because the next thing that I want to do is, based on this persona that we've created, I'd actually like to create some content. And so what I've chosen to do,
Same problem, David. Oh,
How
yes.
about now?
Yeah, good.
Okay. We're no longer using this microphone. We're just going to use my Macintosh microphone.
Okay,
Hope
perfect.
it works. Okay. So we're now going to use this to do a little bit of ad content creation. And so again, I'm going to put in a similarly long prompt here, but I want to put some specific data around what our business is. So in this case, I've decided that for the business, we're going to do this luxury brand. So I just went to the website of L'Oreal, and I dropped in L'Oreal, and we're going to promote the Pure Sugar Purify and Unclog Kiwi Scrub. I have no idea what that is, but I thought it might be an appropriate thing to try to get messaging around for this individual. And so we're going to go ahead, and what I've asked it to do is go through and give me ads written by some very famous copywriters, because they all have different styles and different approaches. I'll enlarge this so you can see their names: Gary Halbert, Eugene Schwartz, Drayton Bird, Joe Sugarman, Gary Bensavenga, Dan Kennedy. I looked for as many European copywriters as I could. Drayton Bird was the one who I chose to put at the top of the list, because everybody else didn't write regularly in English, and I wanted to produce this in English. So there you go. So what we're now getting, is this clear what we're doing?
I mean, just to recap, you are asking ChatGPT to create content based on the content produced by famous influencer that you know or that you found.
Correct. And I wouldn't use the word influencer to describe these. These are craftsmen of marketing messaging. So Gary Halbert has a very specific style. Eugene Schwartz has a very specific style. And what we've done is we've taken the persona. Again?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay. I thought I lost the audio
Okay,
once
no.
again. So what we've done is we've taken the persona of that young woman, all of the things which are important to her, then we've layered on top of it the issues that, or the information about the product, and we're marrying those two together. And so you can see, Eugene Schwartz has a particular style, Drayton Bird has a particular style. Turn heads with L'Oreal's, pure sugar kiwi scrub because you deserve it. Joe Sugarman would feel the melt, something that, maybe a sort of kitschy term that he might use, and saying that this thing is a game changer. Gara Bensavanga is somebody who always wants to make someone feel like the best of themselves. So unveil your best skin with this product. Who else did I have? Dan Kennedy is sort of direct to the point and abrupt. So transform your skin routine. And this thing is your answer. Okay. So we get different approaches with different, focusing on different aspects of the persona and different beliefs that they may have that we're tapping into with each of these ads. Is that making sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay. So now we can take this and we can even build upon it. Let's say we'll just use the Dan Kennedy style. I could say, this is terrific. I like Dan Kennedy. Please adapt this ad into a 3-email promotional campaign. And I even misspelled email and it knows what I mean. And so now it can take this and say, okay, great. I'm going to take the Dan Kennedy approach and the Dan Kennedy style, and I'm going to write an email campaign using this approach. Again, you see how we can get a lot more done a lot more quickly if we know, A, what we're trying to accomplish, what our outcome is, and then B, we can test a lot more things, because I could go and do a split test email promotional campaign with each of these 6 angles and see which one is getting the conversion. And then, do that for a portion of my list and then go out and do it for my entire list with the winner of that campaign. Is that making sense?
It makes sense.
Okay, great. So this is giving me, an example of 3 emails that I might use based on that one particular individual. But if I say, I don't really like the writing style of this, I could say, please change the style and tone to, I'm going to just try something crazy, right? Victor Hugo. I've done this with like Bart Simpson and with other characters, and we know they have a style. And so suddenly we're changing this to something that is inspired by the writing style of Victor Hugo. Immediately you have a very different outcome. So in the labyrinth of life, why should your skin bear the burden of the mundane? Kind of beautiful, don't you think?
Yes, I mean.
Anyway, that gives
sure
you.
He could be a great marketer. Victor Hugo.
Possibly. So I wanted to just give you a sense of sort of how you could quickly and easily adapt things. This is great. Look, I didn't even say where you could buy it, but look where it said print out. So it's automatically understanding the the context around this because it's making certain assumptions.
Get it.
Okay, great. So that's a little bit about content generation. I'm going to give you a couple more examples without using ChatGPT, but here's one example of how I'm seeing marketers use this right now. They're looking at what's successful in terms of content. So this is just a TikTok screenshot looking at the best performing TikTok videos. You can take them, analyze the structure of them, the commonality, bring them into something like Otter AI, which is going to transcribe that, put the transcription into ChatGPT, and just how you saw me transform the content of an ad to an email to changing the voice of an email, well, we could say, take this format and adapt it to my business, to my brand, and create a script for me. And suddenly you can have your own structured video content, or at least the script of it, based on what is already working effectively in an environment like TikTok. But if you don't want to record that video, well, there's voice tools that can create the AI voice for you. This is one example of one of the best ones on the market at the moment, 11 Labs. A lot of podcasts are actually being produced just by typing in and inserting text into a tool like this and generating the output on the other end. Or create video avatars. This is an avatar of the owner of this company, HeyGen, and you can actually create all of the videos without having a human involved. And this is the company that I think is leading the way currently in that particular technology. So there's a broad range of things that you can do well beyond simply the interactive text in ChatGPT. So I have one last area I want to cover, and then we'll move over to Q&A, because I'm sure you all have lots of questions from some of the ideas that I've been introducing here. I work with a lot of organizations where we're helping teams figure out how to feel more comfortable in the environment of these tools. And one of the things that we'll often look at is, what are the KPIs, what are the metrics that you in your department, in your role, are looking at, and how do you continue to improve in those areas? And so one of the things I love doing, I'm actually going to open up a new chat for this one, is trying to use ChatGPT or any other large language model like this to help coach someone in improving in this area. So I created this prompt, which is all about being a coach, guiding someone through a process. And so I'm asking it, please be my coach. I'm going to give you some data, and I'd like you to coach me through improving on this data. Okay. And I'd like you to do it in the form of an email. So I'm going to upload a file here. Let's see, I think I got it here. This is from a wine wholesaler here in the US. I just took some random data, and I'm going to say, here is my wine distribution company data. And it's going to now do the rest, which is going to follow the instructions I gave it up above to write me an email based on what it's analyzed, coaching me through a process. And one of the things I love doing is I read a lot of business books. So in the example here, remember I gave it a sample when I was doing the previous one, the persona. I said, here's the output I'd like. Well, in this one, I said, I'd like you to reference business books that might be helpful for me to improve in my role in this organization. And so what we'll see in the output is it's going to look at the context of the information I provided, and it should be recommending some business books to me. In this case, it's telling me that I might want to optimize my product mix, and maybe I should look at this book, Contagious, which is all about how to get people more connected and attached to the products that you're selling. It's saying that I should capitalize on seasonality. Maybe I should look at this book, Biology. I don't know this particular book, but there's probably some useful stuff in here. And again, one of my favorite areas of marketing is psychology, and it's recommending that I look to be able to strengthen the relationship with my suppliers, looking at Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, to maybe talk about how I could become more effective at my relationship with my suppliers. So there's a lot of different ways that it can coach me. And then if I want to go deeper, it actually has given me instructions to say, yes, I'd like to learn more about how I might do, this particular thing simply by just typing in, 2B, and 2B is referencing, I don't know, whatever this one is. So number 2B, develop seasonal promotional. And I can get it to coach me through how to do that. Okay. So that's one way I like to use this analytics, is to actually look at that. But maybe I don't know what else it could help me do. One of the easiest ways to find out is simply to ask. And so I'm going to put one last prompt in here, and then we'll jump over to Q&A. Aside from coaching, how else can you help me in analysis or action based on this data that I provide? Give me 5 possible examples of things we can do together with this data. Now I'm telling it, help me with what other things you can help me with, and it's going to be able to guide me through some of the things that it could be able to help work through, problems it could help solve, questions it could help address. Simply asking the AI, what else can you do with this, is a really good way to go when you're sort of looking at a resource that you have, but not sure what AI can do to help support you with it. So I hope this is all making sense.
No, it's fantastic, David. Thank you very much.
Great. I'm going to stop sharing now, and I think we'll
yes.
open things up.
Obviously, we will take question from the audience. I have question myself, so I'm going to start.
Please.
I would like to speak about AI impact on marketing jobs, because obviously, and I love the fact that you said it's an intern, and we see that you need to have some seniority in any marketing teams,
mm-hmm.
because you mentioned, for example, the marketing strategist. For example, you have to know them. You have to know what you are doing. I compare AI to a Formula One, so you need a pilot, to drive it. But do you see? What is your conviction? Do you see marketing teams getting smaller in the future because of AI, because we can do more things? What is your view on impact on AI impact on jobs?
So I think there's certain roles where you're never going to have AI take over too much of the responsibility. And those roles are always going to be places where there's some manual activity involved. The roles where you are dealing with technology as being a foundation of sort of the regular activity in the role, I think that's going to shift. What I hope is going to happen is that we are going to put a lot more of the task-based, mundane, repetitive stuff on the AI, but we're still going to have people who understand how to manage it. So I talk about it in terms of, for copywriters, and I work with a lot of copywriters, you're no longer the writer. You are now the editor, and you are taking all of the raw materials that the AI is creating for you, and you are playing the role of the copy chief or the editor here. Mm. So where I hope most of this is going is that we're going to be shifting in our roles rather than losing roles. And this is the same thing I think we saw with automation in factories, for example. We didn't lose in aggregate the number of jobs in those environments. What we did was we shifted the types of jobs that existed because the technology changed the types of needs that these organizations had. I'm going to just share one last little anecdote here. There was a study that was done by the Boston Consulting Group a month or two ago, where they analyzed somewhere between 700 and 800 different consultants, and how, when they used AI in the consulting process, the consultants who had sort of the baseline worst quality output in terms of speed, in terms of results, improved by 42%. The ones who had the highest quality prior to use of AI increased by 17%. The output of the two at the resulting end was not too far from each other, within like 11 or 12% of each other. So what this suggests to me is that if we take lower task level employees and teach them how to use AI, it's going to help increase the quality of the output. So when I say we're going to be able to iterate, create a lot more ads, a lot more copy to test, a lot more, this is not losing jobs. It's shifting the speed at which we're able to test and review and act upon the things we learn. And we can do a lot more. I don't think it's going to replace people as a result.
Thank you for sharing that. We have a fantastic question from Diego. I'll let you go ahead, David, read it and answer it.
All right. So with the emergence of AI in the creative space, what you suggest current content marketers and marketing creatives do to stay relevant and ahead of the game? Start using AI every day and get familiar and comfortable with the environment and play around with it, even if it's not sanctioned or allowed in an organization. Become comfortable and understand how to work through a problem using these tools. I think, and I'll get to the second part of the question in a moment, which I haven't even read. As I just explained, I think what we're doing is we're going to see a shift in the way that we're operating in business, and those organizations and those individuals who have the experience and knowledge and comfort level with this environment are going to find themselves in a better position than organizations which are ignoring this or saying or too concerned about some of the real problems like security of the data and things like that. There are already solutions to that kind of stuff. How would the role of content marketers shifted in his experience? Generative AIs are currently not good at identifying the brand specific nuances. Yeah, you know what? Yes and no, in terms of the ability of the tools to understand the nuances. There's a lot of training required at our end, but if you do the training with the right tool, providing the right data, I didn't train it on those copywriters, for example, and it knew enough to get the general premise of those. Had I said, I'm going to give you the entire works of Drayton Bird, and I'd like you to be able to imitate his voice perfectly based on this, it would be able to do that more effectively. We can take a brand and also, sort of have it analyze the brand, feed back, sort of back end stuff into it. This is not a capability that ChatGPT has in its current structure. But there are plenty of tools which do have this capability that are built on top of the technology that's behind ChatGPT or Anthropic or so many of the other LLMs out there.
And the second question was?
So Luca's question?
No, sorry, just on that, sorry for that.
Yeah.
Yes, and finally, what we can say, and we see it at Hub Advisor with our client, human is the final decision maker. So it's going to help you, obviously, maybe do 70% of the job, but then the last 30%, obviously, in the process, and maybe it should put in place in the governance, it should be human. Mm-hmm. And we have the question of authority and accountability as well. At the end of the day, it should be a human who takes the responsibility to create and to publish this content. If tomorrow you say it was generated by ChatGPT, okay, it's not a good answer for a boss. That's it.
So I want to speak to Luca's question because this is at the heart of the work that I'm spending the most amount of time doing these days, and it's on how do you adopt the uptake of these tools and these resources and this technology within an organization. And I think there's a bunch of different ways that one could approach this. I work with a lot of organizations where we're trying to get everybody on the same page. And I have, everybody from the hyper enthusiastic technology person who has been using AI for as long as I have, which is 4 years now, and all the way down to the receptionist or the person in accounts payable who still doesn't like using QuickBooks and would like to do everything in Excel. And how do we get them in the same place in terms of understanding how to leverage this? First, the way that I've done it is a little bit of what I showed you earlier in terms of understanding KPIs for your role and that coaching. That is one of the ways that I've taught them how to become familiar with the environment. The second thing is we do a regular routine. So let's say an organization has, a daily or weekly stand-up where they'll go and just do a check-in with everybody. Well, we incorporate what was your latest accomplishment with AI, or what are you working, or what have you discovered, or that sort of thing into that routine that they already have to help further not indoctrinate, but add that to the core focus of what the organization is doing. So I think, part of this question is also that bringing consultants in from the outside. I showed you how wide a spectrum of AI tools are out there in the market. It's not about the tools. It's about the challenges and the needs and the desires of the organization. And then somebody who's knowledgeable enough to figure out how to find the answer, find the solution, is I think how I would approach that.
I hope it answers Luca's question. And Luca, I can answer as well. I mean, training is a great point. And this is why we created Hub Advisor. So obviously you will need to upskill and to train people, and culture. And I think, yes, we should speak about culture. So it will be a long journey. And when you speak about the routine is the best way to transform and to change the culture. So create new habits, I think, including AI, in those new habits is really important. So we are getting to the end of the session. So thank you very much, David. Thank you for everybody who contributed in this call. We will get in touch with you. Like I said, if you want to go further or have one-to-one consultation with David, it's possible. The Hub Advisor team will contact you soon, and hope we will get in touch. Thank you very much, David, and have a great evening. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening too.
Ismail, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.